Sustainable fat loss isn't easy, and there is so much information out there talking about fat loss, and a lot of it oversimplifies fat loss. And so in this video, we are going to talk about 5 harsh truths when it comes to fat loss that you may not want to hear, but you need to hear if long-term fat loss is something you are wanting to achieve. So let's get straight into it and start off with the first harsh truth, and that is that fat loss is not just about calories in versus calories out. Now, don't get me wrong, being in a calorie deficit is a really important part of fat loss, but it is an oversimplification because there are so many other elements when it comes to sustainable fat loss, like your hormones, your metabolism, the actual quality of the calories you're consuming, and how those things are affecting your body and your energy levels, your hunger levels, your insulin, all those things. And 2 people who are eating in a similar calorie deficit, who have different hormones, different metabolism, and are consuming different quality of food, are going to see very different fat loss results and very different results in how they feel, and whether or not they can actually keep the fat that they've lost off. And so this is why it's not as simple as just being in a calorie deficit. You need to be focusing on eating a diet that is full of nutrient-dense, natural foods that are going to support your energy levels, your hunger levels, your hormones, and not spike insulin. You need to be thinking about and managing your stress levels, making sure you're getting enough sleep. The human body is a very complicated thing. It's not some simple machine where as long as you're pouring in this amount, you'll get this outcome. There's a lot more to it than that. You cannot just rely on being in a calorie deficit and expect that to result in fat loss and sustainable fat loss that you can actually stick to and keep the weight off. The second harsh truth is exercise alone is not going to get you to your fat loss goals. Now, exercise is essential for health and it can play a big role in fat loss. However, you've probably heard this before, when it comes to fat loss, it's like 80, maybe even 90% diet and 10 to 20% about the exercise, especially when it comes to cardio, because you might be able to burn 300 calories from going on a run, but you'll be able to consume that food back in minutes. And when you also include the fact that when you're doing exercise, especially more intense cardio, it's going to really raise your hunger levels. It's kind of counterintuitive to be trying to lose weight just through exercise. Now, I think the best form of exercise when it comes to weight loss is actually focusing on resistance training and building muscle, because muscle improves your metabolism, which means you're burning more calories at a rest just generally throughout the day. However, doing that alone, if you haven't got your diet sorted, you're not focusing on your sleep and all those other things, you are never going to reach your fat loss goals with just exercise alone. So that is the second harsh truth. And the third harsh truth, and a lot of people fall into this trap, is not all weight loss is fat loss. And a lot of people make the mistake of getting obsessed with the scale, but the scale really doesn't tell the full story. This is also the mistake people make when they go on super restrictive, low calorie diets or fad diets. And what it results in usually is, yes, weight loss in probably a fairly short amount of time and quite a lot of weight, but a large proportion of that weight is going to be muscle as well as fat. And when you lose muscle, your metabolism gets worse, which means you have to eat even less to stay in that calorie deficit. You end up in this cycle of the more weight you lose and the less you eat, the worse your metabolism gets, and it goes on and on and on. And so creating a diet and an exercise routine that focuses around specifically targeting fat and losing fat while still being able to hold on to or build muscle at the same time, and yes, losing fat and building muscle at the same time is possible, is going to make your life so much easier when it comes to fat loss. And so it's really important to not fall into that trap of just looking at the scale, seeing that you've lost X amount of weight, but it not actually being the kind of weight you want to lose. This is why in my videos on my social media, I refer to myself as a fat loss coach, and I generally talk about fat loss rather than weight loss, because I want to make that differentiation. Focusing on maximizing the weight you lose as fat is really important. On to the fourth harsh truth, which is Fat loss takes time and patience, especially if you want sustainable fat loss that is going to last. Because like I was saying before, you can jump on some extreme diet that is going to make you drop weight really quite quickly, but it's never going to be sustainable and you are going to inevitably just gain the weight back. And so creating a diet and an exercise routine that is sustainable for you and you can see yourself doing for the rest of your life is the most important thing. And that might result in you losing weight slower because it's sustainable, but I guarantee you won't end up putting the weight back on. And so it might take you 8 months to reach your goals instead of 3 months, but you do that 8 months and then you never see that weight again. Unlike when you do it for the 3 months, it then comes back and then you do it again and back. And before you know it, 3 years later, you still got the weight that you wanted to lose. So having patience and understanding that doing fat loss the right way does take more time, but in the end gives you that ultimate result that you actually want. And so if you are someone who is on a fat loss journey, have patience, trust the process, and know that you are on the right track and you are doing right by yourself if you are having a slightly slower approach to fat loss that is going to be sustainable. And the final harsh truth for this video is that willpower and motivation is not going to get you there alone, because motivation and willpower, they are just feelings. They come and they go. And if you are relying on a feeling to reach a fat loss goal or any goal, you will never achieve it, because fat loss, as I was just saying, it does take time and it does take consistency. And so you can't be relying on something that might be there one day and then isn't the next. And that's when discipline comes in. Doing the thing that you're not in the mood to do, or you really can't be bothered to do today, on a regular basis, and continuing to do that despite how you're feeling or your emotions. And that is no easy thing, but wow, if you can master that, you're going to achieve your fat loss goals, absolutely, but you will also be able to achieve all sorts of other amazing things, because that skill of being able to do something in the now that you don't want to do and you may not see immediate results from, and being able to push that forward and delay gratification is a skill that will 100% allow you to reach your fat loss goals, but will also serve you incredibly well in all walks of life. And so there we go. Those are 5 harsh truths about fat loss that, as I said, you may not want to hear, but I promise you, if you listen to these things, you think about them, you implement them into your life, you will be able to reach your fat loss goals, lose the fat, and keep it off for good. And I'll just quickly run through those again. It's not all about calories in versus calories out. The body is complicated and there are so many other things at work that you need to be thinking about. Exercise alone won't save you and will not get you to your fat loss goals. Not all weight loss is fat loss, and prioritizing fat loss and not just focusing on the scale is incredibly important. Sustainable fat loss that lasts takes time and patience, and motivation and willpower alone are not going to get you to your goals. You have to learn delayed gratification, consistency, and discipline. So I promise you, if you take these 5 things into account, it's going to make a massive difference to your fat loss journey, being able to achieve your fat loss goals and achieve them for good, and not end up yo-yoing back and forth and regaining the weight you lose. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope those 5 harsh truths have been helpful for you. And please do subscribe if you are someone who wants to see more helpful videos on fat loss like this.